What's up, idols? It's CC Lesson 3. Welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for clicking on this video. So you see the title, and the reason she wanted to share this with you is because of a woman named Courtney. She has a YouTube channel called Courtney the Enthusiast, and she has been very vocal about her struggles with her Korean husband and trying to gain the right to see their son again. And this email literally starts off with, "I was inspired by Courtney to share my story." And I had no idea all of this was going down. The past month I've been home in the States with my family and we were just on vacation. I literally had no Wi-Fi, so I started to see a few comments talk about a horrible DV situation in Korea and a girl named Courtney, and I didn't know what they were talking about until someone explained it to me in the comments. So thank you for that, because I was able to watch another video about her story. I believe I'll link it below if you guys want to hear more about Courtney's story, or even Courtney the Enthusiast. I'll link her channel so you can hear her updates and stuff. I do want to say, if you guys want something that's a little more positive, then I encourage you to check out my Patreon. I just did a story about a girl who had a threesome in Korea to get over a recent breakup, and she thought that would be a one-off situation, so we shared that story a few days ago. But she also emailed me with an update and things are going great. She thought he was just gonna be a rebound, but they're actually getting to being more serious. Yeah, Patreon's a lot more NSFW. I can't put on YouTube because of ad restrictions, and the topics of those videos tend to be quite sexual. I had a threesome in Korea. I literally had not gone out or socialized since we broke up. But this one man, he looked like a painting, a Renaissance classic. He was tall like I like, and he had gorgeous curly hair. And he had his shirt off. And because there were mirrors everywhere, my friends were able to warn me that he was walking over towards us and I wasn't ready. Then, one of my friends said out loud, "The best way to get over a guy is to get under another one." So I assume my other friend translated the phrase in Korean for them, because they had a moment of realization. They laughed and went, "Ah!" He said he can be that new guy, but if I really want to feel better, why not pick them both? But this is when it really hit me that I'm alone with two grown men. This is intimidating, and we're naked. So yeah, let's just jump right into this one. She wants to be referred to as Anna because, like in Frozen, Anna fell for Hans because Hans was perfect at first. He was a Prince Charming at first, and everything just seemed too good to be true. Yes, she fell for him hard and fast, but unfortunately, she said he turned out to be the villain. So Anna moved to Korea all alone with the dreams of being an English teacher. Because she was alone, she was very eager to make her own friends and establish her own roots in South Korea. And she knew she was ready for the long haul. Like, she moved there with every intention of living in Korea, like, permanently. And making friends is easy for her because she's a very social person, a social butterfly, the life of the party. She has a dominant personality type, and she said it's really easy for her to connect with strangers. And because she was about to go to Korea, she wanted to make sure she knew her MBTI, the 16 personality types. And she likes hers because she has the same as Mingyu from 17. I learned mine in like 2016. I was INFJ then, now I'm INFP. Do you guys know yours? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, she's an ENTJ and she's very proud of that because Mingyu from 17 is also an ENTJ. She's the commander personality type.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
And she said thinking of how she was before she met him just made her realize how far she had fallen, the empty shell of a person she became. Like, she didn't recognize herself at all. Anyway, Anna lived in a small town in the Gyeonggi province, so she wasn't far from Seoul, but she wasn't in Seoul. But because of her close proximity to Seoul, she did spend a lot of time in Seoul. In fact, most, if not all of her friends were in Seoul. They would meet up on weekends, they'd hang out together. Also, because she went to Korea as an English teacher, she didn't really make a lot of plans to learn Korean because she knows that you're not supposed to speak it at work and you're not really required to know Korean to go to Korea. But it does make your life a lot easier. She actually encourages, if you guys plan to move to Korea or visit frequently, learn Korean because it can help you avoid some of the headaches that she went through later. Like, she found herself relying on her husband for everything. And that's how he kept her dependent and needing him around. That's a common tactic in like controlling, manipulative relationships. So anyway, let's skip to when they first met. She didn't bother with dating apps because she lived in a pretty rural town, and in her opinion, where she lived, people weren't very interested in dating foreigners. A lot of them also did not speak English. And I will say, outside of the major cities in Korea, I think it is less common to find someone who speaks English, but that's how it is with, you know, pretty much any country. The city is where you see the diversity. The city is where you see lots of different types of people come together, people who are more open-minded. That's just kind of the way of the world. So she wanted to swipe in Seoul, but because she didn't live in Seoul, she kind of saw that as pointless, so she just didn't bother with the dating apps at all. So yeah, she met this guy the old-fashioned way. By the way, for this story, we're going to call him Hans, just to keep it simple. Anna, Hans, Frozen. So this was one weekend where she was staying with her friend in Seoul, because they would do that. She would pack a weekend bag, stay with her, and all her girls would get together. They'd go out cafe hopping, bowling, clubbing, drinking, dancing, shopping, movies, things like that. She always had these places she wanted to tick off as explored in Seoul. So this was one particular night where she was out with her friends, and it's like 5 a.m. They're starving and looking for somewhere to eat. And that's when suddenly two guys came over to them. One was Hans and one was his friend. By the way, Hans and his friend were absolutely hammered. And she says she didn't feel scared or anything like that because she's with a group of friends and they're just two drunk guys. And the way they slurred their words and were so giggly, she found them more adorable than threatening. So they asked what the girls were doing. Like, they saw most of them were foreigners, so they just approached them speaking English and asked what they were doing. So they said, we are starving, we're looking for food, but it's 5 a.m. And they said, oh my god, we know a place, like here, and show them in their phone. They said it's open 24 hours, it's nearby, it would be perfect for them. And the girls were very excited and grateful for this bit of knowledge, so they're like, why don't you guys come along with us, let's all eat together. So Anna says she's not trying to be rude or mean or anything like that, but in that moment she was not at all attracted to Hans. She just saw them as like two potential new friends, because she is all about making friends. And it is worth noting that she had plenty of guy friends and plenty of girlfriends. Like, she's never seen any problem with having friends of the gender she's attracted to. So later in the story, when you see the part where Hans gets really jealous and starts accusing her of like the worst stuff, you can see how this really had no groundings whatsoever. He was just paranoid and insecure.
You're insecure.
So yeah, they all make it to this place together. They're all excited, mouth watering, and they realize the lights are off. It is closed. It's not open right now.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
A lot of businesses in Korea do run hella late, especially to cater to like these late night crowds. So they had no problem finding another place to eat, and they all still ate together, just wasn't at this highly recommended place they initially were going to. So as they're finishing their meal and they're eating and rehydrating, they start to sober up. And they're having such a good time together that they say, yo, we should hang out tomorrow too. Like, let's just keep this going. But specifically, Hans asked Anna for her social media because he wanted to be able to get in touch with her directly. He offered to pay for her food, but she's like, oh, that's sweet, but no thanks, I'm good. So then he offered to pay for her friends, and they were like, yes, thank you, I accept your offer. At this point, the girls thought these boys were so sweet, so lovely, just absolutely amazing and fun to be around. So they all finish their meals, the boys and girls head to their respective homes. Anna gets all showered and she passes out and goes to sleep. Unfortunately, she was knocked out until like 3 p.m. And when they were supposed to meet on this day, it was supposed to be for lunch. It's 3 p.m. They miss lunch. So she wakes up, realizes how late it is, checks her DMs, and she sees that she has a few from Hans. So first he said good night, then he said good morning, then he said did you sleep well, then he said when should we meet, and then it was just a question mark. So she apologized to him and said, oh my god, I'm so sorry, but me and my friends just woke up. He was understanding about it and said, yeah, it's okay, you know, I bet you guys had a really long night. So he asked if they wanted to do dinner instead, because there's still plenty of time for dinner. So she says she doesn't want to speak for all her friends. She'll see if they're hungover, she'll see how they feel about it, and she'll get back to him. So it took a while for her friends to respond because they didn't all wake up on the dot at 3 o'clock. And in the time while she was waiting for a response from her friends, Hans sent a few more messages. He sent a question mark again, then he sent another question mark, and then he said, what's the update? Then he said sorry with a laughing emoji. So her friends did get back to her, and she told him, look, they said that they do want to see you guys again, like they're down, but maybe tomorrow, maybe not tonight, because we already had plans for tonight and we're already behind schedule by just waking up now. And this is where we see Hans get a little pushy because he's like, oh, come on, you guys gotta eat. Why not just let us do it all together? We all need to eat. You need to eat. You should eat. Let's eat together. He's like, we can all go to dinner and then you girls can go and do what your plan was initially. Also, it is important to remember that Anna doesn't really like him like that. Like, she just sees him as a potential friend, so she wasn't really all that pressed to want to hang out with him or see him again necessarily so soon. So she goes, how about a nice lunch tomorrow? Like, she doubles down on that. He didn't reply back at all. He left the message on read, so she's like, okay, well, I guess that's that. So the girls got ready and went on about their night as usual. And to this day, Anna has no idea how what happened next happened. Hans and his friend, the same two guys they met in the wee hours of the morning, were just right there in front of them. As Anna and her friends were leaving the club, she saw Hans and his friend about to go in the club, and they're like, oh hey, small world, what are the odds? That is quite suspicious and incredibly unlikely. But again, Anna and her friends did not find them at all threatening, so they're like, wow, that is crazy. And at this point, they've had a few drinks, so they're a lot more easygoing. And just like that, the guys tagged along, and the girls' night became a girls plus them night. They had fun together, for what it's worth, and the guys kept buying the girls shots. They even passed by an arcade, and Hans won them some stuff. He won some plushies, he won like a pop socket, and like a headband. Like, he started to win stuff for everybody. And this is when he really started to grow on Anna. She was like, you know, he's not that bad. He seems pretty cool, which is good timing because it was at this point that he started to make it really obvious that he liked her. He kept telling her how pretty she was, promising to teach her Korean. He would stare at her a lot, saying how great she looked in her outfit. Also, keep that outfit thing in mind because, you know, when you're a young lady and you go out to the club, your outfits tend to be a bit more revealing. It is what it is. Anna was no different. She said she was wearing a pretty typical girls' night out type of villain outfit, and Hans loved it on her. Even her friends were like, girl, clearly he likes you. Then Anna's like, no, I mean, he bought you guys dinner last night. He's been winning stuff for y'all too. And she's like, I think he's doing that to make you jealous. Like, clearly he likes you. He asked for your Instagram. He's been blowing you up, not us. So they all did have a good night. And they wanted to try to do the next day hangout again. They was like, hey, how about a nice picnic? Sunday afternoon, that would be absolutely perfect. And they all loved that idea. And they laughed like, oh my God, it's like a real K-drama.
You want my destiny.
So then Hans asked, because he said he's always been curious, what do girls like so much about Korean dramas? Like, even foreign girls love Korean dramas. I don't understand the hype. And the girls are like, the actors are so handsome and the plot, can't forget the plot. And the plot is usually a very handsome actor. How they're all gentlemen and they're sweet and it lets the girls escape to Delulu a little bit. And that's basically what they were saying to him. And then Hans's friend joked that he wished all girls didn't have that expectation or believe that that was real or believe that that could be real. And then they basically kind of started to have like a mini gender debate about gender roles and stuff. Anna really liked how Hans made a point to be like, we need to be more understanding and sympathetic of what women go through because we'll never know what it's like to be them. It's really challenging to have all these expectations about how you should look, what you should do, the struggles of making less money for the same job, not being protected by the law, saying how scary it is to be a girl and girls have to be careful and girls have issues that we'll never understand and issues that we never have to worry about. And it was everything Anna wanted to hear, especially from a guy. And that's why, like, the irony and audacity of this man, because hearing him say this stuff followed by the actions he takes down the road with Anna, it's like, you're joking, right?
I'm a fun guy.
It's really tragic that he knows exactly what to say. He knows exactly how girls want to be treated, and he chose to not. And when you think about it in hindsight, part of this seems like a little bit of a ruse with him and his friend, like good friend, bad friend, like good cop, bad cop. Like, you pretend to be an asshole and I'm gonna swoop in and be the gentleman and make them swoon. That's what it looks like to me. That's just me. That way all the girls will be like, oh my God, Hans is so oppa. So anyway, they all get ready to head home again after another fun night out together. And Hans asked if he could hug Anna. And she said yes. And she says when they hugged, she felt this spark that she can't explain. Suddenly, she found herself with butterflies and feeling shy around him when she's so used to being like the social one, the commander, the leading personality, the life of the party. Suddenly she's at a loss for words around this boy. Even her friends noticed and it was like, girl, what the fuck just happened to you? And suddenly when she left his presence, she found herself looking forward to his DMs. Before, they were kind of a bother and they were a lot. They were plentiful, they were abundant, chill. Now she's like, oh my God, is he gonna text me back soon? I can't wait. What is he gonna say next? So when he finally messaged her and said, see you tomorrow, she was elated. She was so excited. But unfortunately, she did have to tell him like she couldn't stay long because she doesn't live in Seoul, and she was worried that that might be a deal breaker for him, that, oh, I don't know if I can date someone or get to know someone who doesn't live in the same city as me. Sundays for her is typically like her journey back home, so she gotta get on the bus. So she had what she calls her hobo outfit, where she just had like sweatpants and a t-shirt because she was just ready for the journey home. They don't usually plan anything for the Sunday because they usually go out 2 nights and they're tired by Sunday. So to her surprise though, when they met up, he was all complimentary, like, oh my God, you look so beautiful today, and you look like you slept well, you look like an angel, like just saying everything so sweet, even though she felt like she did not look that good. So it's all of them, it's all of her friends, Hans and his friend. And while Hans was trying to get to know Anna a bit, if it seems like her friends were trying to keep his friend busy, so like they had their first bit of one-on-one time together. The weather was really warm, but unfortunately it was really cloudy, so they were all joking about trying to have a picnic redo. And Anna absolutely wanted to do that because she's like, oh my God, I can get like a cute dress, like I can actually dress the part instead of looking like a hobo and y'all look all cute. So they finish their picnic, they all have fun again, and the next time she's planning to be in Seoul is in another 2 weeks or so. While she's away, her and Hans talked all the time. They texted a lot and they talked on the phone a lot. They decided to move their communication from Instagram to Kakao. Things were getting pretty serious pretty fast. Too fast, too serious. And it didn't take long before they were asking each other about ideal types, recent relationships, deal breakers, red flags, ideal dates. But one thing she said is whenever she took too long to reply to a message, and too long for him was like an hour or so, he would send a few before she could get to the one. And she always felt like he thought she was ignoring his messages, and she wanted to make sure he didn't feel that way. She's like, no, I'm so sorry, like I'm at work, or I'm so sorry I took a nap, or I'm so sorry I was in the shower, things like that. She felt pressured to reply to him really fast, and she felt really apologetic when she couldn't. So he asked her if the next time she comes to Seoul, if he can take her out on a date. And she's like, oh, I thought we already were planning to do this picnic, like it's gonna be so much fun. It's so much fun when we all hang out. He's like, no, I think I'd rather just hang out with you one-on-one, like a proper date. And she's like, oh, wow, I've never been on a date in Korea before. And she was excited and she agreed. So she had to update her friends like, hey, I know we're all supposed to meet up and have this cute little picnic, but Hans just asked me out one-on-one. And they're of course like, girl, go for it. Like, oh my God, just tell us what happens later. So they had their little picnic one-on-one. They went for a walk in the city and then they headed to the movies. She said that he was so sweet. She felt like he was actually listening to her and actually interested in getting to know her. He was very funny and she really enjoyed learning more about him. Like she was falling for him fast. And because she's in Seoul, she is staying with her friend. Like that's kind of their routine. Whenever she comes to Seoul, she stays at her friend's. And one thing that was a little worrisome is when she left to meet him for that picnic that morning, that was the last the friend heard from her for the day. She was expecting Anna to come back to her place to go to sleep. That did not happen, and here's why. So the whole day came and went. And Anna ended up spending the night at Hans' place. Wow. And y'all, it gets even more crazy because at the end of their first date, they were officially boyfriend and girlfriend. Oh! He needs some milk! She admits it was absolutely completely rushed. But she also says part of her didn't take him too seriously because in the 2 weeks that she wasn't in Seoul, when they were texting and talking on the phone, he would always joke about, when you gonna be my girlfriend? You should be my girlfriend. 사랑해, 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 사랑해요, 안녕하세요, 사랑해. So she's like, ha ha ha, you crazy boy. So once she agreed to be his girlfriend, he asked if she could sleep over. And she agreed to that as well. And unfortunately, this whole time, she had not texted her friend, so her friend was fearing the worst. And Anna wanted to text her, but he kept saying, oh, you're grown, your friend's grown, she shouldn't worry about you, she should live her own life. Now this is a completely different side of Hans because Hans is buying them shots and winning them plushies, and now he's like, you don't gotta talk to her, don't worry about that, you're grown, you'll be fine. And he seemed upset whenever she was looking at her phone and trying to text or checking social media. And Anna said this is where the first bits of isolation began. So the next day when she finally makes it back to her friend's house, understandably, she's getting dragged for filth and berated by her besties because they were worried about her. They were happy for her, but they absolutely agreed like this is way too soon. Like comically too soon. And they told her to be careful. So for the next few months, all of Anna's free time was spent with Hans. She was not seeing her friends anymore. Constant dates, and when she came up to Seoul, she would spend the night at his place instead of spending the night at her friend's place. She actually, to this point, hadn't seen them since she started dating Hans. And when a new relationship starts, at first you want to spend all your time with the partner. Like you're so excited. You can't wait to go on dates. You can't wait to sleep over. You can't wait to wake up next to them. Like you want to spend all your time with them or a lot of time with them because it's new and exciting. But whenever she mentioned missing her friends, he would say they were a bad influence.
Is this serious? Boy, if you don't get...
He said because they clubbed too much and they were unmarried. Also saying that she shouldn't hang out with guys anymore as friends because she's now in a relationship with a guy. So like that's inappropriate, that's gotta stop. I'm your boyfriend and I say you can't have guy friends. And I'm noticing a pattern here. A few months ago, we did a story on this channel about a girl she was a younger girl. She was in a relationship with an older guy that she met while clubbing, and he started to get controlling and try to change her. He was looking to settle down, he was looking to get married, and she was still young, trying to have fun and live her life. He tried changing her to what he wanted her to be instead of finding someone who already had similar immediate goals. Like find someone who wants to get married right now. Find someone who wants to have kids right now. Find someone who doesn't want to be out in the clubs right now. Don't try to find someone who doesn't want kids, doesn't want marriage, wants to be clubbing and turn them to the opposite of that. Like, what's the point? Should probably try to find someone closer to your age, buddy. Just saying. By the way, I don't know how old Anna and Hans are. I mean, I'm assuming they're in like their 20s or 30s because they were out clubbing. Like, they were doing this, especially the way they talk about their routine. Like, go out Friday, go out Saturday, sleep it off Sunday, do it again next weekend. So I'm getting 20s vibes. I don't know how old they are. But yeah, when I got to the point in the email where he didn't want her hanging out with her friends and calling them bad influences because they were single and they like to go out, I was like, I'm having war flashbacks.
War. Terrible war.
I just want to remind y'all, Hans was out with them and buying them drinks. He was drunk with his friends, stumbling around at like 5 in the morning before he met these girls. They all met the very next night in a club by chance. I feel like people need to understand this. Like, if you can't trust your partner to be around single people and be faithful and loyal to you, then maybe you shouldn't be with that person. If you can't trust your partner to be around people they're attracted to and stay loyal and faithful to you, then maybe you should break up. If you don't trust your partner to live their life and exist without you, without cheating on you, then break the fuck up. I just feel like it's incredibly unreasonable to expect your partner's friends circle to change because the relationship status changed. Like, just because we're in a relationship, all our friends have to be in a relationship, or all our friends have to be married, or all our friends have to have kids. Like, that's weird. You can be married or in a committed relationship and still hang out with your friends. Trust and respect is everything. Don't try to control your partner. They're adults. Sorry. Rant over. So yeah, not only did she start seeing her friends like never, she stopped being able to see her friends, but she also had to change the way she was dressing. He wanted her to cover up more. Unlike the second night he saw her where he couldn't get enough of her outfit, he thought she looked so great in the dress she was wearing. Now he wants her to button up and be proper and prim because she's his girl now. Which, I'm sorry, I just gotta say, I'm just not a fan of a partner trying to change you. I don't like that. That gives me the ick. If someone wants to change, that change should be natural. It should happen naturally, not because you're telling me to change. She also couldn't go more than an hour without texting him unless she was a sleeper at work. That was the rule. So yeah, she had to check in. And he also wanted her to move to Seoul because he wanted them to get a place together. I can't stress this enough. They've only been together a few months at this point. And the fact that he wants them to live together, but she's never met his family, he's never even spoken to her family on the phone. You don't think this is a bit much? Living together is too soon. Take it from me, a girl who moved in with a boy. We got a place together, and I only knew him for 2 months before we did that. You can't know someone, like truly know someone that fast. That's when you fuck around and find shit out like, oh, he's married and has a daughter. Anna also says she did not want to leave because she really liked her school and she really loved her students and she didn't want to have to start over somewhere else. So let us jump ahead another 6 months into their relationship. So that's about 10 months together so far. Anna realized that she missed a period. And the moment she realized she missed it, she started to feel nauseous as well. She's like, you know what? I'll give it another month. I've missed periods before. Due to stress, life happens. 2 periods come and go. 2 menstrual cycles come and go, and she does not have her period. Now she's starting to worry. The thing is, Hans wanted intercourse all the time, and he didn't always want to wrap his kimbap. I'm trying here, it's YouTube. I'm trying to get this out there PG. If you know, you know. I mean, kimbap is kind of shaped like eggplant before it's cut, right? After Anna realized she missed 2 consecutive periods, she decided to tell her friends, like, girls, I think I'm pregnant. So they tell her, like, duh, go get a pregnancy test. Like, what are you telling us for? Go get a test. So she took the test and it came back positive.
Oh my God, this whole thing is real!
And, you know, denial is a powerful thing. So she's like, oh no, this is a cheap test, whatever. I've just been really stressed at work and my life's been changing a lot in the past few months. That's all it is. So after she spent the whole night convincing herself that she's not pregnant, she decided to go get more tests the next day. It was like, look, let me just acknowledge this head on. Denial's not gonna make this any better. So she took 4 more tests and they all came back positive.
I've been a nasty girl, nasty. I've been a nasty girl, nasty.
She didn't know how Hans would react to this news because they never talked about kids like at all whatsoever. And it is still a very new relationship, 10 months. She didn't know if he would be scared, mad, happy, encourage her to take care of it. So when she told her friends that all 5 tests came back positive, they were speechless because at this point they weren't wild about him because ever since he came into her life, they've seen her less and less and less. The only time they get to see her now is when they go to her place outside of Seoul and they have like a movie night in. she's not allowed to see them when she comes to Seoul. She just hasn't been able to go. So they ask her like, how are you gonna tell him? Like, this is a big deal. And she's like, oh my God, I don't know. I'm gonna have to quit my job. I'm gonna have to get a bigger place. We gotta move in together. Should we get married? Like, she's thinking about all these things all at once. And her friends have the idea that you should invite him to your place and y'all should talk about it there. Do it on your terms and your grounds. She's like, yeah, you know what? That's a good idea. And she agrees to their plan. So let's jump to when it's time to tell Hans he's about to be a daddy. So he comes over, everything's normal. He's happy to see her. One thing, he was a little nitpicky about the shorts she was sleeping in. He said they were too short and she should wear longer shorts to sleep.
Wait a minute. Who are you?
Even though she's just in her house, and some people prefer to sleep naked, but you think her shorts are too short. Who's that for? Okay. On top of that, he could tell that her friends were over recently. I don't know how, like, I don't know if they had their things there, like, oh, that's Jessica's shirt, or oh, that's Marika's pants. I'm talking about my real life friend. But yeah, so there was evidence that she had her friends over and he wasn't a fan of that. Not having a guy over, not having your friends over. By the way, the guys, the girls, they're all friends and they all come together. Unless he thinks they're having like massive orgies when he's not around, I don't know what the problem is. And he gave her shit for that. Like, why are your friends still coming over here? So she found herself getting in a very bad mood. And this is on the like, she's supposed to be telling him some very major life-changing news. You should not be in a bad mood when you have to share this. So she said plainly, like, oh, so I'm supposed to just never see my friends again? I've already conceded to not seeing them when I'm in Seoul. I only go to Seoul to see you. I can't have my friends over my own apartment now? It gives me the ick. It gives me the ick.
Brother, ugh.
So yeah, this is the part in her email when she really wanted you guys to pay attention to some red flags and warning signs about controlling and manipulative partners, because men and women are both victims of this. You know, there are plenty of crazy girls out there, esta loca, who will tell you, you can't have female friends now that I'm your girlfriend. Who is she? Why are you looking at her like that? You hearted her picture. So this goes both ways. There's a lot of stuff that she just kind of let roll off her back. And this was her first relationship in Korea. And she's like, you know, maybe they do things differently here. Like, there's a lot that she excused that she wouldn't normally excuse and make excuses for. But also taking into consideration that she is now pregnant by this man. So she's like, we got to make this work. So she let a lot of this go, and she doesn't want you guys to do the same. Like, don't ignore these signs that make you feel uncomfortable with a partner.
We interrupt this anecdote for a message.
But yeah, instead of apologizing for being unreasonable, he just tried to make her feel better. He didn't say I'm sorry or answer her question or acknowledge, like, wait, you're mad at me for having my friends over? He just tried to make her feel better because he could tell she was upset. So then he's like, you can have friends and they should be able to come over. They just shouldn't be single. I don't understand the logic of a single friend being a bad influence on you. There are plenty of people in relationships who are awful. Like, they cheat, they lie, they abuse their partner. Like, why do you think being not single makes you somehow a better influence? I would 1,000,000,000% rather be happy and single than miserable and in a relationship. That's something he is firm on because he brings it up all throughout the relationship. So after all this, on this night, she decided, I'm not about to tell him I'm pregnant just because I'm in a shitty mood and it's probably going to come out in a really bad way. So unfortunately, the next day when she woke up, she threw up. And I mean, we all know what it means when an otherwise healthy appearing or healthy seeming woman just randomly throws up. You're like, oh shit, are you pregnant? So Hans asked her what was wrong. And she's like, oh, you know, come to the bathroom. There's something I gotta show you. And she decided, let's just rip the band-aid off. And she kept the pregnancy test because she was planning to show him all 5. And that was another reason why her friend suggested he should come over there so she didn't have to take 5 peed on sticks up to him in Seoul. He made a dumb joke when he first saw that. He's like, oh, COVID?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Are you not ashamed of yourself?
She's like, I think I might be pregnant. I missed 2 periods and these are 5 positive pregnancy tests. His first reaction was, why didn't you tell me sooner? And she's like, well, I didn't want to tell you until I was pretty sure. Like, why tell you? And then I'm like, oh, sorry. I know I told you I might be pregnant, but I just got my period. So she asked him how he feels about it and he was silent. Understandably, you know, give you a minute. Let the same thoughts that went through my head go through yours because this is a big deal. So he says he needs a minute and he leaves her apartment. So Anna's just sitting there alone in her place like, that's interesting. So about 2 hours later, he comes back to her apartment and he says that his family wants them to have this baby. She's like, wait, what the you told your family? Why would you do that without telling me first?
Tell me why.
If she did decide that she wanted to take care of it Or if they had this talk and decided it mutually, now you can't, because like you'd be the villain after telling your family, oh, there's one on the way, and then JK, not anymore. Why would you do that? Like, she didn't even tell her own family because she wasn't sure what she wanted to do first. Like, why tell them, hey, I'm pregnant if I'm not going to keep it? Or if I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet? Plus, they never actually confirmed it with a doctor yet. Like, that's kind of a first major step. So he said they need to know because this is important. And she said that was the moment when she felt like she lost all control over everything that was going on. So with that, with his family being aware of the situation, getting rid of it was no longer an option. She knew that they were about to be parents. So now she's pissed and she wants him to know that. He kept saying, calm down, it's not good for the baby, the gaslighting. And she feels like he did that to control her. Like, imagine if you found out your son was having a kid and then, I don't know, a few weeks later, you found out, never mind, your son's girlfriend decided to get rid of it. Then you hate her forever. And then he says, my family wants to meet you as soon as we can. He never suggested her meeting his family at all before this. Now suddenly this has to happen now. He's like, we definitely got to find a bigger place together. You should move to Seoul to be with me. You should have told me as soon as you knew, because now we have way less time to prepare. I just want y'all to know she's about 6 weeks pregnant at this point. Like, what are you talking about? You should have told me way sooner. So she just sat there stunned in silence while he's pacing, making all these plans, all these declarations of what is about to happen and what they're going to do without asking her opinion. She figured, what's the point? He's not listening anyway. So once he leaves, she calls her friends hysterical and crying. She's saying now she has to have this baby, like there's no choice. He just told his whole family about it. And now she has to meet his family for the first time and she's pregnant. And at this point, they really did not like him, which is understandable, I would say. He was amazing at first, an absolute star, but now he has just completely hijacked her life. And she didn't even tell her friends what he said about not having them over anymore. So with this, she decided to finally fill in her family about what's been going on. Like, they knew she was seeing a guy, but it wasn't serious. But now that she's pregnant, it is serious. And naturally, they want her home for the birth. Of course, Hans and his family won't be having any part of that. They're not going to allow that. So they made their doctor's appointment, and surely enough, the doctor confirmed that they are indeed expecting. Everything is normal and healthy so far. So now it's time to meet his family, which consists of mom, dad, a great uncle, grandparents, plus a cousin or two. He doesn't have any siblings, he's an only child. And I think it shows. Anna didn't know what to expect from his family because she's never learned about them. He doesn't talk about them. She's never met them. And she also knows she's a foreigner. She's impregnated by this dude. They might think poorly on her or look down on her. But they were actually very pleasant, very nice, exciting, friendly, did not speak English at all, but they were very welcoming to her, to the family. She was very relieved, and that was definitely one less thing she had to worry about. So Hans was there to kind of be the translator. She wasn't quite sure if what he was saying was accurate, but their gestures seemed to match what he was saying they said. So trust it for now. You'll see. He lied. So they keep telling her to eat healthy, don't be stressed, get plenty of rest. They're all talking about names, if it's a boy or if it's a girl. And of course, the topic of marriage comes up. Because he's an only child, they keep telling him they want him to do this the right way. They need to get married before the baby comes. They need to move in together before the baby comes. They need to create the most stable environment possible for this child. And it's pretty sad that they didn't even consider the possibility that she might want to go home to be with her family to give birth. And she said sitting there with him and his family, she felt like Rose in Titanic, that scene where her mom is talking with the friends and they're all making decisions for Rose. Even Cal's like, oh, we're gonna do this, oh, she'll have the lamb. Like, she felt like she was not in control of her own life anymore. No one cared what she wanted. No one asked her what she wanted. They didn't even ask her for her input about names. They just kept telling her, this is how it's done in Korea, we must do it properly. And she felt very pressured. So just like that, they're all planning a wedding.
What a beautiful wedding! What a beautiful wedding!
And what's crazy is Hans never actually formally proposed to her.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
He was given the ring and the dress by his parents. And part of me wonders if he knows that if he did propose to her, her answer would not be yes. Plus, based on his actions so far, he doesn't seem to be the biggest fan of giving her any choices. So yeah, they planned for everything and said, we'll do it all because stress is bad for the baby. Her only thing that she said is because her family can't make it, like they can't all afford to take off work and fly out to Korea, she really wants her friends to be there. She hasn't seen them. She would really like if she had some people in her corner. He said it's a bad idea because of their lifestyle.
Breathe in, boy.
They're single 20-somethings who enjoy the club. They're not on drugs. They're not felons. They're not criminals. They go to the club. Like, what the hell? He was also just in the club. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. But she put her foot down. And they had an argument about this. I'm not about to go through with a wedding where I know no one there. This wedding can't be just me plus all of your people. Like, that's not fair. I need to have some people there that I care about. He's like, yeah, we can have a live stream so your family can watch it. And that, fine, sure. But I need some people in person there with me too. Eventually he concedes and he says, fine. How many of y'all think that he actually did invite her friends to the wedding? More on that in a bit. So the wedding does happen very soon because they must do all this before the baby comes. So they've moved in together. Anna is now 5 months pregnant and now she's also a wife. But guess what? Her friends weren't there. At first, Anna thought they weren't there because they didn't feel like they were her friend anymore. It's been like a year now of her barely seeing them and barely talking to them. So she's like, wow, my friends aren't my friends anymore. They must hate me. And she knows that they hate him. So she thought that was their way of protesting this union. So she decided to give them a piece of her mind. She's pregnant, hormonal, alone, stressed. She types out this long ass dissertation about how she's so disappointed in them that they couldn't put aside their personal grievances and their difference of opinion to support her on this very important day that only comes once in a lifetime ideally for most people. A lot of people do get divorced and remarried these days. It is what it is. And they're like, girl, we weren't invited. Like, don't be mad at me. So the friends thought they weren't invited and she thought they didn't show up because they were mad at her. So she was confused because she knew someone was lying. Either Hans was lying about sending the invites or they were lying about receiving the invites and just chose not to show up. But she's pretty sure she knew which one was the liar. Even though her friends did not like him, they were never hostile towards him or rude. Like, they were always very cordial. The same cannot be seen for Hans. He made his low view of them very known, very apparent.
I don't fucking like you.
What?
I said, I don't fucking like you.
You don't like me?
No.
So she asked him why he lied about inviting her friends, and he said, it's what was best.
What you say? That you only meant well.
I'm sorry, what? It's best for you to lie to your pregnant wife? And every time they got in an argument, he's like, think of the baby. You need to calm down. You're too emotional. He said he just wanted to end the argument by telling her what she wanted to hear, instead of actually listening to what she was saying. I'm literally speechless. I don't know what to say. Who does that? And of course, this led to another argument. He's like, calm down. You're pregnant. Think of the baby. You're too emotional.
Oh, here we go again.
So he said, look, the wedding went off without a hitch. Like, it was successful. They didn't have to be there for it to be success. We were both very happy. She's like, I wasn't happy because I thought my friends didn't give a fuck about me. And turns out you just didn't invite them. So she was about to leave. She turned around. This argument was going nowhere. She was about to leave the apartment. So he's calling her, telling her not to go anywhere. And she's ignoring him. She says she's going to their house right now. She needs to see her friends. So he slammed the door shut when she tried to open it. And he said, you can't leave in this condition. And he blocked her. He physically blocked her from leaving. And then he started to act like he was going to cry because he did this thing where when he wasn't getting his way, he would threaten to harm himself. He would act like he's the victim of whatever argument they were having. Like, her thoughts and feelings were invalid because he's the true victim of all of this. And she does say that unlike what's going on with Courtney the enthusiast, luckily for her, like, she feels really fortunate that he was never physically violent with her. Like, he never hit her or physically harmed her. It was emotional and psychological, mental abuse. So yeah, it became a pretty common occurrence that whenever they had a fight and he feels like he was losing ground, I guess, he would threaten to hurt himself. And he'd say, like, you're about to be a single mom. What is our kid gonna do without me around? Things like that. So she would dial it down and she would back off and just let him have his way. So yeah, she chose to stay. So the next day when they wake up, he acts like nothing happened. Hey, honey. Hi, wife. We should go out and get some air and go to the park. You don't get to say that to me when last night you threatened to make me a widow and a single mother, and to have that on my conscience that you will hurt yourself because I left. Like, stop. Oh my God, I can't. So unfortunately, this was her new life and she was stuck. By the way, when she moved in with him, she did have to quit her job. He encouraged it. He said, you should be a full-time mom. You should be up here, have all your free time for the baby. That's what's best for the baby. She wasn't allowed to work anymore. And please, that is another thing you need to keep in mind. He did not want her to work anymore. It was his decision for her to stop working. She loved her job. She wasn't allowed to see her friends, and Hans was her whole world. He was the only person she socialized with. Even her family got shut down for trying to talk with him. They just wanted a video chat, a phone call. They've never heard this boy's voice outside of like recordings. They got to see the live stream of the wedding and pictures here and there, but they don't know him. So we skip to the birth Anna gives birth to a happy and healthy baby girl, and she does give birth in Korea because, let's be real, her going home was never an option. They don't even consider letting her family get involved. Like, it's so weird, but you'll see this was all a one-sided ruse perpetrated by Hans. His family's actually really chill, they just didn't know the full situation. So yeah, Hans is the only one working because, again, he insisted that Anna be a full-time stay-at-home mother. What makes it odd is after their daughter was born, Hans started to complain about some things. Oh my god, the diapers are gone already? Why is the light bill so high? If you're cold, put on a sweater, stop turning on the heat. Basically, he's complaining about the finances of it all. And look, here's the thing, I feel like there is absolutely nothing wrong with a couple wanting that traditional gender role lifestyle, but that it goes two ways. Like, a lot of people want the woman to be a trad wife, to be the stay-at-home caremaker, cook, clean, look after the kids. That is your full-time job. But then they don't have the money to support that lifestyle, because if a woman is going to stay home, cook, clean, look after the kids full-time, that means you have to bring in the money. You can't expect your girl to do all the cooking, all the cleaning, all the caretaking, and still work. Like, that's not a trad wife. So like, a lot of these men want that traditional wife, but they're not prepared to be that traditional husband. I find that interesting. So since he told her to quit her job, he keeps complaining about the money and the bills and how he can't do it all. And she's like, you told me to quit my job. Like, she's offered to go to work. She's like, I miss my job. Should I go back? He's like, well, who will watch the kid? And she said, that's how parents work. You know, it's a two-way street. When I'm at work, you can watch her. When you're at work, I can watch her. And we also have your family here. Like, that's one of the perks of having grandparents around. Like, they like to watch the kids. And it's like, you don't understand that babies are expensive? Like, you thought this was going to be easy? That's why so many of us are having fewer, if any, kids at all. So he's like, I don't want my family to know about this. I don't want my family involved. But it's like, you won't let my family help or be a part of this. We can't rely on your family to be a part of this. You just want to complain about everything and take it out on me. So yeah, he didn't want them to know that they're struggling. But this situation is very much a product of all the control that he wanted. So this was her life for 3 years. He would take out all his frustrations on her. He would comment about her weight gain, blame her for feeding the baby too much, and that's why they're out of baby food, and what a burden she is on him emotionally and financially. And if she dared to speak up, he would threaten to hurt himself and make her a widow and a single mother.
All around me are familiar faces.
Her self-esteem is at an all-time low, and now she's alone. So y'all might be wondering what finally changed all this, right? So Anna realized she couldn't do this anymore. She told him about everything that he's wanted to control and how we're in this situation because of the control that you wanted. I want to work, you say no. I want help from my friends and family, you say no. You told your parents about this kid to make sure we have this kid, and now it's such a burden. I'm such a burden. We're such a burden. You asked me to move in with you. And when he did his typical, I'm gonna hurt myself, you better stop talking to me that way, she called his bluff. She said, do it.
Do it! Just do it!
She didn't care anymore because if this was their relationship, she didn't want it. She wanted to be honest with his family about how much they were struggling, because for what it's worth, his family was absolutely understandable and they were on her side. Like, they were pretty fair about what her situation is like, being a foreigner in a new country, trying to raise a kid. But there was a lot that they didn't know, and it's about to come out now. So with this argument becoming more heated because she called him on his bluff and he didn't run to the kitchen and hurt himself, now he calls his family over because he needs backup. And when he said he was going to call his family over, she said, cool, I'm going to call my friends, because she had a friend who speaks Korean. She needs a translator. So luckily for her, her friend got over there pretty quick, but Hans was trying to not let her in the apartment. His family showed up, they all got in, and now they're all having this argument, this discussion, and the parents are worried about their daughter hearing all this yelling, all this fuss, all this commotion. So Anna finally lets it all out, and her friend is able to translate to everybody. Not through Hans to the family, so filtered bits can get through, but bluntly how she's been feeling these past few years. And this is when it's revealed that they thought she wanted to get married. They thought she wanted to quit her job and be a full-time mom. They also were told that she purposely stopped taking her birth control because she wanted a child.
I'm still alive, but I'm barely breathing.
When in reality, the problem was Hans didn't always want to wrap up his kimbap. So not only were they mad that Hans lied to them, but they were mad for her, like, oh my god, you've been suffering so much alone, I'm sorry. So right now, Hans and Anna are in a weird place where she's been thinking a lot about divorce, but she also saw what Courtney's been going through, and she knows the laws will favor her husband Hans. Also, she partially wants to work it out for the sake of their daughter, but she also knows that if it keeps going like this, she can't go through with this for the sake of her own sanity. Her kids don't need to see that. Like, that's not a healthy environment for kids to grow up in. Like, a lot of people make it seem like you need to make a relationship work. The parents need to stay together at all costs, when if it's a bad one, a bad example of a relationship, the kids don't need to see that at all. It's better to be single. And she worries that physical violence is the next step. And she said Courtney's story was very much a wake-up call for her, and she started to worry that he might actually become dangerous. Like, he's been drinking more. I mean, think about how often we hear stories and see these stories of a man who is overworked or overstressed or whatever and ends up taking out on his family and he kills his wife and his kids. Like, that happens way too often. But luckily for her, she does have his family support, and they beg him to try to be understanding to her. Like, she hasn't seen her family in years. She doesn't get to see her friends. Like, her life is just this baby, and then you come home from work and then blame her for all of it, you know? And they actually fear that she'll try to take the baby and run to the States, but I don't think they're aware that that's not that easy. So yeah, Courtney's video shows how one-sided Korean law can be, especially when it comes to foreign rights. They overwhelmingly favor the Korean citizen, which is weird because there is so much legislation and so many plans and talks and initiatives to welcome more foreigners to the country, whether you want to work in Korea, whether you want to live in Korea, whether you want to visit Korea, study at uni in Korea. Like, they want a lot of foreigners. They want more foreigners in the country because they need your tourism money, they need your school money, and they need to replace the aging workforce. Yet a lot of their laws don't acknowledge foreigners and accommodate foreigners yet. So in Courtney's video, she well documented the verbal and physical abuse she received from her husband. There are many loopholes to get around all of that, and unfortunately a lot of police officers and a huge part of the law doesn't take all this seriously enough. That's not just in Korea, by the way. That's like a worldwide issue. How often is it, and how common are these stories where a girl goes to the police because she needs help because she's being stalked by a stranger, or she's being harassed by her ex-boyfriend, her current partner, and she fears for her safety, and they don't do anything until she's missing or dead? That happens all the time, unfortunately, everywhere. Again, I'm not saying this is just Korea, but these stories are about Korea, so be aware that these problems exist over there as well. DV is a far and widespread issue, and it's unfortunate that there's not enough done to acknowledge it, prevent it, and protect people from it. And all this going on while Korea's president and Yoon's administration is actively trying to defund and dismantle these services that help men and women who deal with DV experiences in their relationship. Ignoring it won't make it go away, and we need to talk about it. This is why I'm really glad I got this story. Again, I had no idea none of this was going on. I had to learn about Courtney a few days ago, and it's really brave that she's coming out, because I'm sure she's getting a lot of hate because people love to victim blame, don't they? But because Anna saw her story, she was encouraged to share her story, and maybe this will snowball and other people will share their stories and offer each other advice and support. I just feel like there's so much reform that needs to be done in Korean law that acknowledges foreigners, especially with all the nannies coming over from the Philippines, the foreign workforce that they're requesting, foreign students, foreign teachers, foreign workers, foreign residents. They're introducing so many visas to welcome foreigners in the country because the population is rapidly declining and rapidly aging. So if you want us there, you got to make it safe and comfortable for us to be there. So yeah, spread awareness and know the warning signs of this type of manipulation and control and abuse, physical, mental, all of it. And don't ignore the red flags, because unfortunately this is reality for too many people. So that's the story. I hope you found this informative. I know it's not, the typical, oh my god, what a fuckboy, like things that y'all want to talk about. If you want to see more of those types of story times, I encourage you to check out the playlist is about to pop up on the end screen. You can binge so many of those story times because Lord, do we have plenty. But yeah, I thought it was important to share. So thanks for watching. If you did, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Annyeong.